Hi, and before we get to today's episode, we have a quick word from our sponsor. Tired of drinking out of a boring tumbler? Want to make your morning coffee cup one of a kind? Expand with Tipsy Tumblers. You can special order cups, shot glasses, bookmarks, rolling trays for your cigarettes. So you can get one with a picture of a special someone or one with Spider-Man. The options are endless. You can upload your own pictures or pick from her selection of design. With Valentine's Day coming up, this could be a great gift for that special someone, or even just for yourself. Hey, you can use the code GAMES2023 at checkout to save 10%. You go to angeltipsytumblers.myshopify.com. There will also be a link in the show notes. Now on to our episode today.
Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, and welcome to another movie episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's 4, 3, 2, 1 with me tonight?
Casey Jones, a.k.a. Red Fox.
And I want to go, turtles count it off. 1, 2, 3, 4, turtles.
Turtles.
That song is really damn good, by the way.
Yeah, I actually like it.
So we are here to talk about a movie that I didn't know existed until, God, I forget when I think it was back when we recorded something with Mike early on when he joined the show in 2020, where you guys brought it up and mentioned that this movie existed called Turtles Forever. Which,
yeah, if I recall, you were pretty amazed to know that existed.
I was. I remember that much. Because I actually went out and ordered the movie on Amazon on DVD, and I bought the Power Rangers movie, the first one.
Oh, right. Yeah, we still got to do that, too. But yeah.
So it's been on my mind for 2 years, and then finally I was just like, well, I was like, fuck it. But yeah, it's something that I didn't even know existed, and I have never stopped thinking about it. So what we're here to talk about is Turtles Forever, a 2009 straight-to-TV movie, which stars the 2003 Turtles and has a 1987 Turtles in a movie together, which is the strangest mashup that you could think of. I mean,
the only two existing cartoon Turtles at the time. I mean,
at the time. Now I think there's two more iterations of cartoons. There's a 2012
animated?
Turtles.
Yeah.
There's 2012, and I think there's another one too.
Rise of the TMNT.
Yes, which I think got canceled already.
Is that? I thought that was still current.
I don't know. I thought it went 2 seasons, and then they're doing something else now. But I could be wrong because I frankly don't give a shit. So.
Yeah, I haven't watched it once, surprisingly enough.
The 2012 one, though, I have watched some of that. That's not bad.
I like 2012 version.
I never watched enough of it, but I remember it being on. And I saw a couple episodes here and there, but I've never actually sat down. 2003, I tried to watch some of it at one time, but it's one of those things where it was never streaming on somewhere that I had access to, so I never got around to it.
Yeah, TMNT in general is kind of hard to find streaming. Like even the 2012 version, a little hard to find when like full seasons. Like you'll see season 1, and then everything after that is like you got to dig for it somewhere.
Yeah, like in order to watch this movie, because for those that don't know, there's 2 versions of this movie. There's the DVD release, which I own but did not watch, and then which is the TV cut version of the movie that they put on TV, where they cut out a few scenes. Like I forget how many minutes it is. They cut out a few minutes that fit commercials and fit their time frame. And they never released the real version of the movie, which somehow got released digitally at some point or was aired at some point, but it exists on the internet, but they never actually put it on a DVD or Blu-ray.
I'm actually curious as to what parts are missing from that director's cut.
One small scene that I know for a fact that he mentions is when Leonardo, the 2003 Turtles, meet the 1987 Turtles, and Splinter says that they need to accept them. They're their brothers. And that scene is cut out. That's one of the scenes. There's a couple other scenes where all of a sudden, like, they'll just randomly appear somewhere because they cut out the scene of them getting there. There's a couple little things like that just don't make sense that they did to save time.
I see. I mean, ultimately, it sounds like they didn't really cut out anything important. So.
No, nothing too important where you couldn't enjoy the movie, but it's just like, the Turtles being such a big thing as it is, it's weird to me that you wouldn't try to take advantage of it and market something that there's an audience for. Like, I mean, again, I didn't even know this movie existed until 2020, and I'm a big Turtles fan. I'm a fan of the 2003 Turtles, sort of. I didn't even know it was a thing. Like, I mean, to me, that's just strange. Still strange. This movie isn't known enough as it should be because I guess it also is the end of the 2003 Turtles series because the show had ended, and this is the final goodbye of that series.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't completely, it kind of retcons a few things, I guess, that don't make sense they were saying, but Yeah, it's essentially the end of the 2003 Turtles, because at the time that this movie came out is right around the time that they sold the Turtles to Nickelodeon buys it. So that's the other reason why this is kind of forgotten, because Nickelodeon didn't create it, so Nickelodeon doesn't give a shit type of thing. That's why the 2003 Turtles are so, like, non-existent in general.
And from what I understand, to a lot of people, that's like some of their favorite Turtles. I wish at that time I would have spent more time actually watching it. I mean, maybe back at that age, it was harder for me to kind of track it down.
Well, we were in high school at the time.
Right. So, I mean,
we were too cool.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it was like right after that, like right in my early 20s, whatever, I really started like, all right, I need to get back to the basics here. Start paying attention to like Power Rangers and Turtles again and just loving it for what it is. Because I never truly let it go, but I did kind of miss that '03 era of Turtles.
Oh, yeah.
From what I heard, you could see in the movie too, they're more serious, they're a bit darker in certain senses, and I feel like at that time they tried to kind of grow up the Turtles a little bit with that core audience that might have seen the '87 version.
It's also more based in the comics too. Like, I've been watching a recap about the 2003 series, and there's a whole like 2-part episode that is essentially from the comics where they think Shredder's dead. Shredder comes back and beats the shit out of Leo.
Oh, that's actually a very good part in the comics.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like I was watching it. I'm like, okay, I was watching a recap thing. I'm like, oh yeah, like that's from the comics. And then they go to the farmhouse. That sounds familiar. And one of the episodes is them getting hunted by somebody. I'm like, well, that's a Mirage comic too.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of little things that the 2003 series did, but I guess I didn't, because I haven't watched the 1987 cartoon in so many years, and don't ever do that, by the way. Do not put that back on. You will not be okay.
I believe me, I tried and I stopped during that first episode.
It's fucking awful.
Yeah, I can't do it.
No, I mean it was. I can still listen to the song, and the song is still great, but you cannot watch that old cartoon. That cartoon did not age well.
No.
It's a product of a time. But like seeing the Turtles in here, seeing the 87 from next to 2003 Turtles, it's so fucking hilarious. Like when they first seem like, look, they got letters on their belts for their first name.
Yeah, like superheroes.
I mean, they make fun of them constantly. They're like, what the hell? Like, you have a small scene very early in the movie after they meet. They're like, yeah, we'll tell you all about it after lunch. And they go to a pizzeria to get food.
Yeah, and they're just walking around like, no big deal, scaring the hell out of everybody and very oblivious to it.
It's great. Like the whole idea that they end up fighting the Hun and the Purple Dragons, which I guess are have like freaking guns and tech outfit. I've only seen the first season of this show, so seeing Purple Dragons like it's some like military group now and not just a gang with chains was very strange to me.
Mm-hmm.
And Hun has a gauntlet. It looks like he's Thanos for some reason. Like, it was very confusing for a guy who never actually watched this show, except for like a little bit of the first season a long time ago.
Well, that plus like when I first watched it, I don't know how many years ago that was, but when they introduced like the Utram Shredder, it's weird to kind of see that combination. Like, I had no idea what that was about or why that was, because I didn't really watch the 03 version. So
that is the Shredder in this show for the first 3 seasons, because Oraku Saki is dead.
So before the show started, he was dead already.
Yes, he's in the show as a zombie for a villain later on at some point, I guess.
So just the Shredder in general through the entire show is an Utram.
He's only around for the first 3 seasons.
Shredder, you mean, period.
Yes, they kill him. The Utron Shredder, they kill.
Oh, I see. So, but he's still in Turtles Forever.
Yes, because I mean, in Turtles Forever, you have like the whole idea is that the 87 Turtles ended up coming to 2003 world because the Technodrome had the ability to jump through dimensions, and because Donatello, you have a scene of him taking wires and tying them together like a shoe and pulling it, activated it and warped him to a different world. And then the dumbass, oh god, I forgot how dumb Shredder was in the 87 cartoon. Oh my god. Was he that stupid like he is in this movie?
Probably worse, actually.
Okay, because it's bad.
Yeah, he was whiny, he was incompetent. I mean, yeah, they portrayed him pretty accurately.
Why are the Turtles always messing up my plans? I hate those Turtles! Like, it's so, I'm like, oh god, what'd you do to my villain?
Very childish villain. I mean, even Bebop and Rocksteady were kind of the same thing, just bigger and stronger.
I just forgot how childish that show is. I haven't watched it in so long.
Very much so. I mean, I couldn't. Maybe Rat King was probably a lesser childish one. I mean, other than that, everybody else was any reoccurring villains were like that. I mean, even Krang, they're all bumbling idiots for the most part.
But it was the 80s and it was a kid's show.
Yeah, I mean, I can't blame them. You know, it worked. It worked for us when we were kids. Absolutely loved it. So I mean,
I did too. And he's the reason all the problems start, because when he goes to this world, he finds out that there's 8 turtles. So there's, his 4 turtles and another 4 turtles. He's like, well, there has to be a Shredder too. We'll team up and work together. And this is where you see that the Utron that impersonated Shredder called himself Shredder and made and did all that, is actually, like, I guess the end of season 3, he gets frozen in space into a comet somehow. That's why he's in there, and they go and and Shredder ends up teleporting him to the Technodrome.
I see.
I really need to watch the 2003 series. I've been watching a bunch of season 1 recap. I guess some guy on YouTube made a whole video where he went through all the frickin' 2003 series, like episode to episode, kind of breaks it down.
Wasn't Nostalgia Critic, was it?
No. But that's when I started watching this. I'm going to try to keep watching that, because that's going to be my way to absorb the show that I'll probably never watch.
Well, I mean, because this whole time we were talking, it made me want to watch it all together. I don't know if I can tolerate that, though. Maybe a recap is what I need.
Yeah, I mean, plus it's only on Paramount Plus. Like, this movie, it's actually not streaming anywhere. You can get it through. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it in a few other places, but that's it. There's no way to, like, it's not included with any packages.
Yeah, I noticed. I got Paramount Plus too, so maybe I will watch a show.
Yeah, the show's on there, actually, which is surprising because, I mean, sometimes I feel, well, I mean, again, is anybody, if you didn't create something, you inherit it, essentially. Sometimes companies are weird with stuff like that.
Well, they released the show. They should release the movie, huh?
Yeah, because this movie is a great tie-up to the show. I guess it does retcon a few things people are complaining about, but the show is also this movie is also very approachable. If you for both of us, we never saw the show, and you can still enjoy this movie.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, obviously it helps with the selling point of, oh, here's your original 87 turtles and their villains on top of it.
And seeing like Krang is such a buffoon too. And there's another thing that I didn't really think about because it's been so long, that the 87 turtles, they fight using the environment. Like, they push rocks around, they drop stalactites, they don't really use their weapon. Where the 2003 turtles are killing the robot foot soldiers with their weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Because 87 turtles weren't allowed to use weapons. Because, a kid might, get some nunchucks.
No, I mean, if you ever watch and again, I'm sure you will maybe one day, but the movie Turtles, 90 and 91, they didn't use their weapons on anybody either.
No, except Secret of the Ooze teaches you don't need weapons. You use a yo-yo and everything else would beat the shit out of people instead.
Yep, sausage legs, you name it.
Stuff you'll actually have.
Yeah.
90s. I don't know, this movie was like, there's so much freaking hilarious stuff between the turtles. I mean, I know one of the complaints that I was looking at, and that didn't really bother me because I had no memory of it, is that the 87 turtles in this have no personality. They're all just a bunch of goofballs. And all 4 of them are complete idiots.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Raph that said it, but he said it's like having more and more Mikeys or something along those lines. Yeah, it's like everybody practically had the same personality, just a different voice. Which
is kind of a complaint, but I mean, it's a complaint. But I felt it worked okay between the combination of the two, because you have the serious turtles of 2003, and then you have the goofy 87.
I think it was a great contrast. I mean, it worked for what they were going for. I mean, and it just shows the vast differences between other dimensions. Like, if you imagine, because they showed obviously later on previews of other dimensions, and one being the 90s movie, and then even the anime they showed. I mean, how different each one of those would be if they all met.
And there's one that they completely ignore, which is the live action TV show.
Did they skip that one?
Yep, they completely skip it. There's no reference to it at all. And there's reference of all sorts of other things that they did, but they completely skip that in that when they do that pan of all the different turtles.
Yeah, you got to think, right? I mean, that show still left a very bitter taste in their mouths. I mean, that was until the 03 cartoon came out. Like, Turtles was probably having its worst decade, because after 87 Turtles ended in the early 90s, probably 93-ish or whatever it was, then you had Next
97.
Mutation was which one?
87 Turtles run for 10 years.
Was it 10 years? Damn.
Yes. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Let me Google it to make sure I'm not crazy, but I'm pretty sure it runs 10 years.
Well, either way, so after that 87 cartoon, then you get Next Mutation, which butchered it. And then brought in Venus, who Peter Laird was completely pissed about. That alone could have allowed them to cut that out. But man, that was just the worst time for Turtles, I think, historically.
Oh, it ran till 1996, November 2nd,
96.
the day after my birthday, when the last
Close
episode
enough.
aired. And I was long gone by that point.
Yeah, I wasn't. I mean, what did you say? 96?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was 8 years old, so yeah, I wasn't paying attention probably much at that point. I was definitely in the Power Rangers at that point.
I probably was too. But yeah, I couldn't believe when I heard, I'm like, it ran for that fucking long. Like, that's a long ass time.
I was very excited for Next Mutation before I actually saw it. And they had the right idea. They thought, like, let's make it kind of live action, like Power Rangers, that's so successful. Let's do what we're gonna do. Brought it out, completely bombed, they butchered it. And from that point on, I didn't know what to think of Turtles. I guess I didn't care enough. Their looks were so much different because they tried to do all this crazy stuff with the bandanas. If we trail that back to, Turtles 03, like that was the resurgence that we needed right after the 87 one, or at least a couple years later. But just for our age group, it came a little too late, I think.
Yeah, because I mean, there were a few different games for it. There's 2 Game Boy Advance games. I played one of them and really, really like it. There's a few PS2 games that you had. One of them, at least, I remember playing when we were kids.
Yeah, I actually liked it. It was good.
It was a good beat 'em up. And they made 3 of them. I think there's 5 or 6 games from this era, from the 2003 Turtles, or old 3 Turtles. Because I think Mutant Melee, which is to the left of me, which is a terrible game, I think is like it's a Smash Bros. Clone. I think that's also from those Turtles.
Okay.
So, I mean, they did a bunch of stuff with it. But the thing I kept thinking of was, like, I really want a video game of this movie. Like, wouldn't that be fun?
Modern game of this? Oh,
yes.
You mean just the movie itself?
Yeah, just a game of the movie, because it was so fucking... Right. I don't know, this like, so I forgot to say this at the top of the show, but I came in this movie with no expectations. I'm like, okay, this is going to be stupid. And so I watched this movie twice, actually.
Wow.
Because I just had it on in the background. I'm like, okay, and I was watching it while I was editing, and I couldn't stop fucking laughing sometimes. I mean, it's so stupid, but it's hilarious. Like, there's one point when the 03 Turtles are getting mad at 87, and also they're like, "Where's Mikey?" And Mikey's in the group of the 87 Turtles getting a noogie and laughing with them.
Great. That was actually one of the better parts. And as I got older, Mikey definitely became one of my favorite Turtles, just because of how carefree he is and knows how to have a good time. I mean, and then you got a whole squad of them now. So it was pretty funny.
And then, like, just everything also with the Utron Shredder, like, seeing how vicious this little guy is compared to, like, the Krang that we had in the 87 cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Because this guy is intelligent. He's like, I didn't absorb enough 03 Turtles, but he's a fucking vicious ass Shredder, especially compared to what we had. I
mean, this guy was committed to destroying entire dimensions. Like, it doesn't get any worse than that. And when you're talking about an ambitious villain or ambitious Shredder, I mean, no other Shredder has done anything like that.
No, I mean, his whole plan is to, as the movie progresses and he finds out that there's other dimensions, his whole plan is to find where all the Turtles come from and wipe them out so that way the universe doesn't exist anymore. Yep. Because they're destined that there's always a Shredder and there's always the Turtles that are going to beat the Shredder.
Right.
So he's destined to change that. So it's just there's a lot of weird stuff that I guess people were complaining. There was a few complaints about that because I guess it retconned some of the stuff that happens throughout the series, and people were complaining. I mean, again, meant nothing to me because I have no fucking idea. So,
well, I mean, but just like a lot of movies that are based on ongoing TV shows, it's just sometimes they're not even really canon,
Yeah, and I mean that's fine because you need to cater to a wider audience.
Right, and just do something fun. I mean, there's a lot of Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball movies, period, that are coming out even now that aren't canon at all. And there's some really cool stuff that goes on.
Aren't the current ones actually like canon? I thought, but I haven't watched it in a long time.
I think there was one that I recently just saw. Actually, the latest one that just came out focuses more on like Piccolo's different stages, all that kind of stuff. I think that one is not, from what I heard.
Okay, I did watch a bunch of the Dragon Ball Z movies at one time. I know, like, none of them are canon, but it's been a long time. That's not a series that I get into anymore. This one of the things I kind of moved on from. I was never a big Dragon Ball Z fan.
Yeah, it's a good show, but if you got other stuff that you're into more, it's definitely not my top show. So
it was also weird for me seeing Hun the way he is in this because he's just he's Han from the cartoon, but he's in charge of his own like criminal mafia gang. It looks like, and then he gets turned into a turtle because of the mutant gen. And,
right, and they made him look kind of like Slash too in there.
Okay, so it wasn't just me. All right, I thought the exact same thing when I saw it.
I think that was intentional.
Okay, but it kind of cracks me up because the mutant gen, the 87 turtles treat it like it's nothing. They're like, oh, you want to be careful with that. Like, it completely mutates you into a different animal.
Oh,
like,
and they're nonchalant about it, just like everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. And Hunt is all pissed off that he got turned into. He's like, I hate turtles, and he's a giant turtle now.
Yeah, he's trying to wash it off in sewer water, and surprise, buddy.
It was good. It really worked.
Some of the other mutants, you had Toka and Razar in there too.
Oh, you saw that? Yeah. And there are other ones too that felt like references to just the random shit that's in the turtles.
For sure, yeah.
There's a ton of mutant animals, right?
They have mutanimals, for example.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of them. So I felt like, because they have a lot of like real fan service scenes in this movie where like they'll just pan over a scene quickly and you'll just see like actually like Toka and Razor who were created for the second movie.
Yeah, there's absolutely no focus on them in the movie at all, but see them running around in the scenes.
It made me smile.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Well, I mean, Easter egg stuff. I mean, if you're gonna make a movie like that, I mean, it's the whole premise of it is fan service anyway. I mean, all people want to see are 87 Turtles with 03. That's all I care about. I don't really give a damn about the story. Let's see what's going on here.
But the story is actually, I mean, I thought it was really good. The whole plot of like, the 03 Turtles trying to deal with 87 and how stupid they are. And they're really just trying to clean up their mess because the 87 Turtles were on TV and got captured and brought the attention that turtles exist.
Besides the fact that something big just happened, they crossed dimensions and they're not only being clowns about it, but then they're going to eat pizza and don't care about a damn thing anyway. And they're not taking anything serious at all.
When they order the pizza, like, can I get jelly beans on there? I think he's out of jelly beans.
Yeah, that was a common thing for back in those days too. The 87 version where they would just come up with these crazy topics.
Yeah, I remember I had one of the toys that had little pizzas that would shoot out of the truck. And I remember the pizza had like ice cream and cherries and all just random shit that would never be on a pizza.
Right.
It's just, and then also the whole idea that Technodrome is such a like powerful piece of equipment that Shredder has in the 87 Turtles, because this Shredder doesn't have that, and you see how powerful the Technodrome is in this, especially when someone smart is in control of it. And I thought that was impressive too, to see what the Utron Shredder does, because he takes it over and he completely modifies it and make it into a giant battle tank, and takes advantage of the fact that they can teleport to, open up other worlds and things. Like, he actually makes use of this, where the other 87 Shredder is just an idiot.
Yeah.
I love how they recognize it too. Like, the 03 Shredder's like, you're a fucking dumbass.
In so many words, yeah.
Yeah. And I also don't understand how that's his daughter, because the girl that breaks him out is supposed to be Shredder's daughter, but Shredder's not human and she's human, so I got nothing.
I can't. I mean, in the current comics, I know how they pulled it out, but in that one, I don't know how they. In the show.
I didn't get far enough in the recap to where any of that's explained, because in the first season, they don't know that Shredder's not human.
Well, I mean, if she's the original Saki's daughter, I mean, I would guess. I don't know.
Because I do know from watching the recap, I watched a review about this movie, that they do fight an undead demon Shredder at some point.
Okay. Which
is the actual Shredder as a zombie, and then they do fight a cyborg Shredder too.
Well, that's all I can guess, is that it was the original Saki's daughter just growing up.
Okay, that probably makes more sense. And she just sees him as her father, because she's the one that rescues him and ends up, because the other Shredders, they're about to dissect him. 87 Shredders and Krang. Mm-hmm. And then they take the shitty foot soldiers, which I love, the purple foot soldiers, and start like making them actually powerful and like changing them and everything.
More advanced and deadly and actual like ninja-like.
Yeah, not just comedic stupid.
Right. Yeah, they definitely look way more badass.
I still love the foot soldier design of the 87 Turtles. Like, I will always like that design.
The foot soldier design?
Yeah.
Oh, it's iconic. I mean, anytime I think of foot soldiers, that's them in the 90s movie is what comes to mind first. Because the purple foot soldier toys I actually had. Grew up with that.
I never had I did have the foot soldier, but it always broke on me. My mom bought it for me multiple times, and every single one I had broke. It's like in my house, or my parents' house, all my old toys that are still there. If I go through them, I'm sure I'll find bodies of foot soldiers. Because she bought me a couple, and they never stayed apart. They always broke.
I'm guessing the leg parts, or
the legs and the arms. I think I don't really remember. I just know it was just a bad design toy, I think.
Most of those were. I remember the legs being pretty loose.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I thought about that. But yeah. No, and just this Shredder is just so fucking badass though. Like I can't get over how much they made him just tough. And seeing him fight when they fight all the turtles together, and the way like Splinter gets captured, which again reminded me of the the movie that you love, the 1990 movie. Where they end up, because they go back to the 87 world so that way they can find, as they tell them, oh, we have devices to stop Technodrome. We have anti-Technodrome devices or something like that. And it's just exploding shurikens. And that's all it is. It's really just garbage. They don't have it. They just want to go home.
It's almost what it seems like. I mean, I'm sure their intentions were pure, but in their cartoony home world or home dimension, maybe it would have made a difference. Here in this one, not a chance. Like even Don, or I don't know, I forget, maybe it's Donnie. I can't remember who it was, but they're trying to lift up a manhole cover, and it's like heavy as hell to them. And
yeah, they can't do it.
Well, yeah, in their world, they would have put a finger in one of the holes and just flipped it up somewhere or something, So physics and everything works a little bit differently in those dimensions.
And when there's a small scene when they get there, you see two people walking by. It's Bebop and Rocksteady from the first like pilot. You see April's friend walks by that they redrew.
Yeah.
And they drew it in the style of the 87 cartoon. I was like,
I really like that. I mean, that was a cool, like when they first stepped foot into the 87 dimension, that was one of the coolest things. It like brought me back. I mean, even just the way they drew the streets and then like the brighter colors. I mean, just everything felt like it did take me back. So they did a good job on
that. And then when they first see April, they're like, April, why are you wearing a yellow jumpsuit?
And then when you go back to the 03 dimension, April's still wearing a yellow like tracksuit.
Yeah, but it looked cooler.
Yeah, it was more stylish, I suppose. But it's like, what are you talking about? You're so used to her wearing a yellow full body suit, and you're gonna say something about it.
I just love that they make fun of that because it's such a dumb costume.
That's the April we all grew up on. I mean,
yeah,
in the 90s movie again, they threw it in there as an Easter egg, but she had like a yellow raincoat. That's as close as we got.
God, that movie's I hate that. I do not like those movies.
The live action movies?
The Michael Bay ones?
Oh, no, I'm not talking about.
Oh, okay, never mind. I thought you were talking about Michael Bay because I hate those. I do not like those movies.
No, those are, another story.
I don't remember the 1991. I know we watched it for the show, but that was a few years ago.
Yeah.
I think that was like 3 years. I think that was 3 years ago. Yeah, that was 3 years ago.
Seemed longer.
It does. But yeah, I think it was something like that. I don't remember. But
she wore it in like, it was like the first, when she gets mugged, I think she was wearing the yellow rain jacket.
Okay. I'm going to have to rewatch that movie again because that's a good movie.
Oh, yeah, I watch it yearly. So.
And then you see April getting chased by a giant banana and some leprechauns and just some shit. She makes a comment. She's like, yeah, I get, like, they make comments like, oh, yeah, we got to rescue her like every day. And she's like,
to pile up when they're not there.
Yeah. It was just so stupid. It was just, but it's funny.
Yeah, that was, I love the contrast between the two. That's what really, in the end for me, what made the movie work.
Because the 87 Turtles, that show is that dumb. Like, it's really dumb shit in that show. Especially, I think, as the show progressed, it gets really fucking stupid.
Yeah. I mean, at least, though, they didn't, like, Shredder is completely useless. Like, the 87 Shredder, completely dumb and useless. Whereas you get these 87 Turtles that come around, they actually come up with some decent ideas. They're useful in a fight somewhat. Like you said, they're using their environment.
Yeah.
I mean, at least they gave them credit where credit was due, I suppose.
And Splinter is smart in both dimensions, which I like that the Splinter also gives them good advice and kind of helps bring the 03 Turtles to realize, like, yeah, we need to listen to them.
Well, and that's the thing, too, is that at the end of the day, all of both teams, all 8 of them, are all teenagers, and they all need direction in one way or another. So that's their point of direction.
Yeah. And it works well. It's just cool to see that, because that also kind of is the point that brings them together, is when they meet the other Splinter and they realize, okay, these aren't as much buffoons as we think they are.
Right.
I mean, they are, but it's a different world. And it was just surprising, like, how much fun it was to watch this movie. I mean, just the way that they react together, the way Shredder is. I mean, at one point you have the Technodrome, because the 03 Shredder, that's so weird the way we gotta talk about this movie. He puts together Technodrome and he makes it enhanced. And it's like fucking just messing up the military. It's got a giant force field. It just looks really badass too. I like that design a lot.
It seems like a doomsday device, and that's what they wanted to portray.
I mean, 'cause the Technodrome itself is so powerful when you think about what it was in the '87 cartoon. They were just it was a cartoon. Like hell, there's one scene when after the '03 Shredder sets up the Technodrome before '87 Shredder tries to kill him again. Is they're sitting there eating popcorn watching him on a couch, randomly a couch they just set up. So it's just so stupid.
So I just thought of something too, like as we talked about the contrast between cartoonish behavior, childlike behavior to this more serious '03. Even the plot itself kind of reflects that. You know what I mean? Because at one end you got the turtles kind of bickering and in a funny way for the most part, and when the storyline really picks up and the arc really gets serious, it gets like deathly serious to the point to where you start seeing dimensions disappear. You start seeing both teams of turtles start disappearing. It's like there are no higher stakes that they could have came up with other than that, and that's how serious it went.
And it's right before that when you get the '87 Turtles van shows up because they bring it from their dimension.
Yeah,
and that was great. Oh, they also cut that scene out too in the non-streaming version. The DVD version cuts out the part when they first see the van. They just all of a sudden they're just in it. That's another one of the little small scenes they get cut out. But I mean, it's funny because I think there's a part where Leo and Ralph are like, okay, this isn't that, or Ralph, like, they're like, this isn't that bad, actually. Because the turrets pop out, they kind of like it.
Yeah, they start praising it.
And there's a part where Michelangelo is on the big jet, which I remember as a kid, and he's like, can't this thing go any faster? I was like, we can, but we shouldn't. He's like, why? And then they like, we'll show you. They just disconnect it from the freaking blimp and crash it.
Yeah, I don't know how the hell he stayed on that thing. It was going fast.
But it's just so funny because it's like, maybe you shouldn't open your mouth. Like,
right.
I don't know, seeing the blimp and seeing the old party wagon, it's just like, the nostalgia just hit me. Not even so much that I remembered them that much in the cartoon. I had the damn toys at one time.
Same, yeah.
So it was so cool just to see that again. Like, and just the fact that it's actually powerful in this world for some reason. I don't know. It worked for me. And I did laugh when they have Bebop and Rocksteady end up joining the '03 Shredder. It ended up like putting Krang, which is a freaking robot body, in handcuffs. Like they handcuff him to the wall.
Right, like Krang couldn't get out of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, isn't he like I thought that suit was supposed to be pretty damn strong. It
is, and it can grow as well. I mean, I don't know.
It did in the Turtles in Time game.
Yeah.
So it was I mean, again, the plot had the plot, and it's just hilarious what it had to do.
Yeah, and they used Bebop and Rocksteady to the fullest extent too. I mean, even to the end there.
And I do like that the Shredder actually comes up with a plan, like his, because he has Splinter, so he tricks him to come into the Technodrome as a trap. Because they go to rescue, Splinter, and they walk right into the trap where they all get captured, and then they all get like pretty much, shackled to the wall while he tries to use his device to find Turtle Prime, as he calls it.
Yeah.
And one thing that was kind of brought to my attention too is I don't think we had a multiverse movie at this time in 2009. Really, like this, I think might have been one of the first. Like, I mean, this again wasn't a big film, but you didn't. I mean, this is before Marvel, DC did all their multiverse stuff that they have done since then. In theaters.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I didn't really think about that. I mean, obviously stuff like that was done before, but was it commonplace? Definitely not.
Is there there's probably a Power Rangers multiverse thing, isn't there? Or are they all the same universe? Like, isn't each Ranger the same universe, just different?
No, actually, now in the comic, even in the comics, there were different dimensions in a lot of cases.
Okay.
Only certain teams existed with each other. If you go by strictly the show, original Rangers all the way up until, I want to say, Lost Galaxy were all the same thing. And then after that, they started kind of being their own dimension or universe or something along those lines.
Okay. Yeah, I'm unfortunately not, I don't know Rangers as well as I wish I did. Well, I don't wish, I just don't know and don't care enough, I guess I should say.
Those comics are still amazing. I actually enjoy the Rangers comics currently more than Turtles. I fell behind a little bit on the Turtles comics.
Well, you really like the IDW stuff. What I read was really good. I need to read more.
Oh, it is. It's amazing. I mean, they did change writers in the much like around later issues, but and that did. You could tell a shift in tone with that. I'm not the biggest fan of that, but they do introduce some cool ideas now and then.
Okay. I need to read more of those with you and cover them on the show.
What you need to see is Hun's origin in the comics and who he is and what he ends up kind of becoming. It's very interesting.
Okay.
Maybe we'll have to mention, I don't think you You never read like around Turtles 50, right?
No, you've been talking about that for like years now.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, maybe those couple of things, Hun, and around the lead up to Turtles 50, some really amazing stuff, especially at Turtles 50. That's worth every minute.
Well, talking about this movie made me want to do more of the comics through the next arc. We did the first 2 arcs of the IDW stuff.
It has been a couple years for that too. Huh?
So maybe we'll do that.
A little overdue, I think.
Yeah. But like when you see the part where the turtles are being used to, find Turtles Prime, it's actually his daughter that frees them so that way they don't get killed. Where Shredder thinks they're dead and they got evaporated with the scanner system, but it was actually she did something to let them get free.
Right, and she had to. She had to turn the tables because otherwise she would no longer exist also.
Yeah, because she figured out what he was up to. He's going to destroy everything. And like you said earlier, like that scene when they're escaping and they're watching people just like disappear because they're being erased like a pencil. Like that is badass though.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it credit to where this came from originally.
Right, and speaking of like drawings and things like that, we didn't talk about the original Turtles in there, the 84 Turtles.
I'm waiting. Well, because it's right after, like, because you see Casey and you see April both get vanished. April does first, and Casey tries to save her, and then he vanishes too. And that's when the Turtles realize that they have to get back to where the Technodrome was. But just when they watch everything get erased, everything just turns white. It's really cool. It's a really badass moment.
Definitely nice touch, and you can feel just how it not only does it turn white, then it starts fading away. On top of it, you can just feel that, like, it gives you anxiety just watching it.
Well, it also, I'm assuming, kind of like how you draw. Like, it goes like the bluer lines, so, your pencil lines, and then you have your pen lines and everything. I'm assuming I don't draw, but I'm assuming that's what
artists, like they do all their lines, and then somebody does all the color after that.
And the Donatellos work together to make the device work to warp them to where the Technodrome went to.
Yep,
and you get to see them actually working together. Like that is so
right.
Cool.
And the 87 Donatello seems almost like he had better ideas sometimes.
Yeah, because he was goofy and he thought more outside the box, where the 03 Turtle is thinking more in reality.
Right, just more practical.
But can you imagine, like, if you didn't... Because then you see all 8 turtles standing in what looks like the Mirage comic book street in the black and white. Can you imagine if you didn't know that was in this movie? I unfortunately knew because you guys had mentioned... You and Mike had mentioned it years ago. Because it's not on the poster.
Yeah, they like description, poster, nothing like that. They don't really say anything. And actually, when I first saw it, because I didn't, I was like, holy hell, this is amazing.
And that's actually what you guys said that sold me on it 2 years ago, is that you had told me it was the, all 3 of those turtles meet. And then you see the original 84 turtles on the roof. And they are assholes.
Complete assholes, yeah.
I love it. They're like, what the fuck are these guys?
Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny to see 03 Raph kind of meet his match, or even more so, because they're even more bullyish and asshole-ish than he could ever be.
Yeah, because they beat the shit out of the turtles too, all 8 of them.
I mean, yeah, they do. And those 84 turtles, they were gritty in those original comics. Like, they were drinking beer, like we talked about before.
I mean, they're murderers too.
And they were murderers too.
Oh, like there's a small scene with the 84 turtles where the 84 Shredder shows up. They just throw a garbage can and he falls off the roof and just dies instantly.
Yeah, they had to find some way to squeeze him in there. I guess it works. Because I actually like that Shredder. That Shredder from Mirage Comics, not only a badass design, but he had some of the best storylines I've ever seen with a Shredder.
But it's also funny because he, for those that don't know, he dies in the first issue because they didn't think it was going to continue.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a one-off.
So they're like, whatever. And so that's kind of a joke to this too, that they just knock him off.
Yeah, I thought it was a nice reference.
Because I was expecting the 84 Shredder to join the other Shredder instead of not just, but yeah, you're right, that design is badass though.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, I don't really have a lot of love for the comic. I've read a bunch of the 84 comics. I think I read like the first 20 or 30 issues. It's a little rough to go back to.
It is, and it's hard. It's kind of all over the place, not only storyline wise, but just trying to piece everything together because they had so many different volumes and everything. It's really hard to track down.
It's also expensive as hell.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's worth it. I mean, yeah, you can be the biggest Turtle fan ever, but I just don't think it's worth that kind of effort for something that doesn't even hold up as well anymore. I mean, even changes in tone, like aggressiveness. You got body count with Raph and Casey that was like way over the top action movie stuff, like very brutal adult stuff that didn't fit in with the rest of it. If you really want to read some coherent turtle material, just jump to IDW and they start from the startup.
Which you can hear us talk about too.
Right.
We did a whole episode about the origin of both of them, if I remember correctly. It's been a while. But yeah, no, just seeing like the 84 turtles, they see the Technodrome, like, all right, let's go get it. And they're just ready to go. I mean, they just no holds barred with them. And I love seeing them like just being so badass.
Completely fearless. I mean, in a lot of ways, they almost remind me of like 4 turtle Batman, you know? Just like the way they talk, the way they act, like real brooding and serious, like, you know.
Well, it's a spoof on Daredevil.
Right.
For some reason. I don't know why Daredevil was the thing that they spoofed.
That's probably because it was kind of newer at the time.
Yeah, the Frank Miller stuff is what I know they spoofed it from. But just the fact that everything's black and white except for the other turtles is also really like a really cool contrast. Because everything from this dimension is black and white, and this is where you have Shredder ends up coming out to fight them, and he, to fight all 16 turtles, and he ends up becoming a gigantic Shredder, which is also cool when they're fighting the Megazord.
Yeah, it's kind of what I thought watching that.
It was also so cool. You just see all 16 turtles on the roof to fight the Shredder. Like, everyone just working together.
Yep.
I think even the other Shredder joins them too to fight the 03 Shredder.
No, he's very useful anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, you have Shredder, you have Splinter. Everybody joins in to fight the giant mech, the Shredder mech, essentially. Because he's just a robot to begin with. Because it's just a little Utron that is operating a giant robot body anyway. I mean, that's what Iraku Saki is in this. Just a robot. I mean, this one you don't see him, but that's what he is in the 03 cartoon at first.
Right.
In season 1 and 2, it's just a robot. Or something like that. Like a bodysuit. And then, like, the thing that destroys the mech, which is also the way they make it work, is that they activate the Technodrome, the laser's activated, which burns through his armor, and then Bebop and Rocksteady unplug it because they trip over it, and then they think, oh, we screwed up, so they plug it back in, which is what becomes his demise.
Yep.
I mean, you have one scene with the 84 turtles jump on the frickin' visor of him, too. Again, they don't give a shit. They're like, all right. And I love it how he's almost... You have Shredder killing the 84 turtles, which is then killing everybody else. And this world starts disappearing because this world can't exist if these turtles don't exist. And that's very, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's just squeezing the life out of them. I mean, it's kind of dark. You think about it. Like, I'm going to go and kill your ancestors, essentially, and destroy everything, the entire world. And the world is saved by Bebop and Rocksteady being stupid and plugging in a cord they unplugged. I think that's
the best way to do it. They picked the right way to go.
And this is where they actually use the exploding shurikens, too, and hit him in the leg to stun him. And they make a comment like, oh, I knew those things would be worth it for something. It's just so, like, it's such a dark movie at times, but also hilarious. It really is a good contrast of the turtles. And I can't. And then that's pretty. Yeah, they kill Shredder, dies because of that, and then they all go back to their own worlds. And the 84 turtles are like, "What the fuck is wrong with these people?" And then you have a scene that gave me the biggest smile I've had in a while from watching the movie.
Which one?
Oh, right after. Well, first on the roof, they talk about we're gonna go get a pizza. They're like, we could go get a slice, which is funny, but that's not the part that got me. Right after it ends, you see the table of Peter and Kevin drawing the comic. And then they get up and you have their voice, which, Ashley, them, I hope this sells. Me too. Let's go get a slice. Did you?
Yeah, that was a nice touch.
It
was
really
definitely a nice touch. I mean, and those guys deserved it. They deserved all that, man. And what they created on pure accident. You talk about some of the greatest luck in the world, man. Look at what they created.
All because they were drawing a freaking turtle as a joke to each other, and they created the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And
then they made a comic as a joke, kind of.
Yeah, the one-issue comic. I think they had to self-published it, if I remember correctly. Or no, they paid somebody, but they had to pay.
Yeah.
Like, it's, I don't know, just there's something about, because when I saw that scene of just their voices and they just put down the comic and they just get up, and it really hit me for some reason. It really like made me go, man, this is a special movie.
There was a lot of love put into that. I mean, just the whole, not only that scene, but the whole movie itself. To them, it almost felt like the big finale too.
Yeah, because this is also before, because this is a few years before you have the purchase of the Turtles, which then leads into, the 2012 Turtles and Nickelodeon doing their thing.
Right.
Which I can't speak a lot to because I haven't been in the Turtles as much since then. Well, I haven't been in Turtles since I was a kid, but I still love Turtles. And that's the movie.
Dead, yeah.
A straight-to-TV movie that I didn't know existed until 2 years ago, and I really was impressed. It was something else. And I just can't, I mean, like even the poster for the movie, which is the one that, you'll see if you Google it, which is a really cool poster, is not even the poster that's on the DVD cover because they went with something generic that they already had. Because I think they didn't want to pay the artist. There's a lot of stupid shit that happened because of the sale is so close together to when this movie gets released.
That sucks. Kind of got put on the shelf, buried by the wayside just because of them not making it. It really sucks.
Yeah, because it doesn't deserve that. This would be a movie that should be brought out and paraded out, and people should watch it because it really was really good.
Yeah, I feel like if you're a Turtle fan, there's no way you should miss this at all.
No, and that brings
especially from that era too. Whether it's 03 or 87, you really shouldn't miss either one.
No, and even for both of us who haven't seen the 03 cartoon, really, I mean, we've seen parts of it, but not enough to be able to point stuff out, and we both enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's saying something right there about the quality of it. And we should go to Shelf Stacker Box, and I'll go first. I'm going to put this on the shelf. I came into it with no expectations, and I left super happy and really, really enjoyed myself. Way more than I had any expectation to. Like I said, I watched this movie twice. That's how much I enjoyed it. It's just that good of a movie. And I'm really glad it exists, and I'm glad I own it too. I'm really glad it's part of my collection. I don't know if I'll watch it, because I didn't watch the actual DVD. I watch it other ways online, but I'm glad I own it.
Do you really have it stored on the shelf?
Yeah, it's in a big shelf full of DVDs.
So I guess you're not lying.
No, it's in a cabinet thing that I have to the straight ahead of me. But no, it deserves to be on the shelf. This is a movie now that I will talk to people and tell people hey, you should watch this. So I already did actually tell someone about it. That I'm like, hey, yeah, I can get you. I can tell you a place where to find it, buddy. If you're interested, I'll send you something. So yeah, it's definitely something that I'm going to recommend now. What about you?
Well, I think it might be a little obvious for me, but yeah, I'd shelf this too. This movie right here, again, the culmination of everything. 87 Turtles got me into the franchise to begin with. So to see them on the screen being completely ridiculous and just owning it, I thought it was amazing. When I first watched it, just like you, I didn't know what I was completely getting into, but I enjoyed every minute of it. Definitely keep it on the shelf. I mean, there are a couple movies that I do love a bit more, but that's not to say this movie doesn't, hold its own.
No, I mean, again, it's a straight TV movie based on a cartoon series. It kind of had its hands tied a little bit, but I get the other ones you love more. All right, if you want to hear more Turtle stuff, which I think Rich is in all of it, or no, almost all of it at least, if not all of it. We did TMT Shadows of the Past, Comic 28, TMT Turtles in Time, Episode 44. And wait, there's more, just under different ways because I typed it 2 different ways before. And we did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Hyperstone Heist, Mini 18, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, Film 27, that movie. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze, Film 16, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles IDW Origin, Comic 19. That was back in November 18th, 2020, by the way, when we released that. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1990, Film 7. Yeah, that's all the stuff we did for Turtles. So if you want to hear more Turtle episodes. All right, and I think that's everything I need to say. So, all right, so we will see you guys next time. If you enjoyed this episode, you can find all our content on Podbean. We have over 400 episodes of Games My Mom Found. We do movies, comics, TV seasons, games, all sorts of stuff. Go check out our giant catalog. If you want to support the show, we do have a Patreon. You can vote in our Patreon for as little as $1 and support the show. And we have Patreon polls every month to help pick out some of the stuff that we're going to have on. Actually, this was on 2 different Patreon polls. It lost both times, and I've been meaning to work it in one day, and I just finally said, fuck it, and put it in the show. That's why we're here. And I want to give a shout out to my awesome intro outro, courtesy of Helena at Hell Hasfer. You can follow her on TikTok. And we do have a Discord. If you want to talk with us, please go join our Discord. You see the link in the show notes. And I want to give a shout out to my buddy Bill Tucker, who started his own podcast, A Gamer Looks at 40. Definitely go check him out. And I think and you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. I think that's everything I need to say. So we will see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.